Liverpool, though, had a nightmare season. They're going to see the club go trophyless despite spending around 450 million on new players. Inevitably, the attention has turned to their manager, Arne Slot, and whether he will be still there next season. Here's what he's had to say.
I don't think I'm deciding that alone on myself, but I have every reason to believe I'm the Liverpool manager next season. Because first of all, I'm contracted to this club, and second of all, from all the talks we are having, so yeah, that is my take on it. But as you said, if you don't have the best season, especially if you compare it with last season, if you compare it with other seasons, maybe you have a different debate. But if you compare it with last season, this has definitely not been a great season. Then it's also normal that criticism comes. And I think we've all had our share. And with all, I mean, the players have had their share, the manager have had their share, and other people in the club have had their share. That is how things work nowadays if you don't win the league.
Yeah, that's Arne Slot speaking, Jace. Obviously, there's big talking points about it. So I want to hear from Liverpool fans because he is staying next season. Do you feel like they've made the right call?
They're in that. I think they're in a position where they can't jump either way because actually they're kind of recovered. I still don't think they're very good. I still think they're struggling. But after what he did last season, and look, we have to consider the injuries to Isak, obviously what happened before a season even started, the devastating
of course.
news,
yeah.
the travesty that took place with Jota. And I think that all of that, but as the season goes on, you have to find a way. I'm not saying that's an excuse, but you've got to come out of that as a team, as a squad. And we're now still at this part of the season. And I found it interesting that he said there, Slot. It wasn't totally convinced by the way that he sounded there.
You ain't been convinced with Liverpool since he took over.
No, I've not. I don't think they've been great. Liverpool fans and I have a different opinion about last year. I said they weren't great. They simply weren't. And I've seen them regress as since he's been there. One of my favourite teams in the Premier League ever, as a Chelsea fan watching another team, is that Klopp team. They honestly, you could, as a neutral, you could watch and you could enjoy their football.
Yeah.
What they did, how they went about it, the high energy, high press, leave everything on the pitch kind of football. You couldn't help but love it. You couldn't as a fan of football. But he's taken them backwards. And this season, I found it quite interesting, the last point that he made, that alluding to the fact this is what happens when you don't win the league. This is not about them not winning the league. This is about them not challenging for the league.
Mm.
Two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a point this season where it looked like Liverpool were going to miss out on top 5. How can you go and win the title and then not expect some criticism? Now, Liverpool fans will know better than me because they watch them every week. I watch, as you do, pretty much every single Liverpool game. They're not great, mate. They really aren't. And I wonder how you kind of park what's happened with the injuries and bring in so many new players and Wirtz. He might still come good, by the way. Isak, injuries, the Jota situation, losing Diaz, big blow, Salah falling off a cliff, Van Dijk nowhere near the levels he's been since he's been there, and then Konate doing what Konate does, missing out Trent. You got Robinson, trying to place him with Kirkes, Frimpong coming in, injuries, Bradley at right back didn't really work. You got Schlabbersai playing at right back, midfield, number 10. It's been an absolute mess all over. Some have been down to Slot, and some hasn't. Mm. And I think you've got to maybe reflect and go, look, we spent enough money. There have been mitigating circumstances. Does that excuse everything? No, it doesn't. It simply doesn't. That's why I'm going back to the point you make there. There's criticism when you don't win the league. The criticism is because how poor they've been and how little they've done in actually retaining the title. And you've seen Arsenal. They've been settled. You look at Arsenal's squad and Liverpool's squad and how they've reacted this season. You can't compare the two.
Do you think, though, look, a lot of Liverpool fans have obviously seen that Alonso's available, right? And Alonso being available, now being linked to Chelsea, where, he potentially does get that job. Do you think Liverpool fans are sitting there thinking, we're going to miss out on a top quality manager who could be hugely successful at Chelsea? They missed that boat.
Right. So when Klopp replaced Brendan Rodgers, it was the season that Jose was having a terrible time. We just won the title the year before. Jose was having a terrible time. It's an international break, I think October. And there was a lot of talk about Chelsea being linked with Klopp. And I think that was probably going to be Chelsea's next move. And I think Liverpool jumped. Now, I don't know for a fact, but I think Liverpool looked at the situation and they've gone, no, this is an upgrade on what we've got. And they're in that situation now a little bit where it could go the other way. Now, I'm not saying that Xabi Alonso is going to join Chelsea, but we're very much in the hunt for it.
Would you take Arne Slot as Chelsea manager?
No. Is that what you're asking me?
Well, I'm because we're talking about Arne Slot as a top manager. Would you have him at Chelsea?
No, I don't think I would.
He's won the Premier League.
Yeah, I don't. From what I've seen,
is he a better manager than Maresca?
You have to say yes, but that doesn't mean you're going to go yes that I want him, does it?
Oh,
I mean, Maresca didn't win the Premier League. Slot did. I think Slot's got a bit. I think he's got a bit lucky that he's inherited. There aren't many managers that walk in.
You ain't lucky if you win the Premier League, Jason.
No, but here's the thing he was lucky with. He walked into a team that most managers walk into a team or a new season because the manager's been sacked and things have gone wrong. That wasn't the case with Liverpool. He walked into a settled squad, an unbelievable squad, an incredible team that had been built in the Klopp way. And I'm not saying he won it by luck, because you never win a Premier League season by luck. That's not what I'm saying. But I've seen Liverpool win that Premier League title. They were nowhere near the best Liverpool side I've ever. Even the Klopp team that didn't win the title were better than Slot's, in my opinion. And they've gone backwards. And I think he was quite fortunate. Whoever walked into that job was going to be so lucky that Klopp walked away when they were pretty much nearly on top. That's not the case at Chelsea. That's not the case at Liverpool now. Liverpool got. I think there's more. There's more to come from Wirtz. Definitely more to come from Wirtz. There has to be. You can't spend that amount of money. Isak, injuries. This Liverpool squad right now looks a bit like in tatters. Have to replace Salah. They have to start looking. They're going to have to need another centre half by the looks of it. Even if Kanate stays, Van Dijk can't keep doing what he's doing. The two fullbacks area has been a massive problem for Liverpool. I think bigger than most people think, because how productive Trent was, how productive Robinson was. They were like wing backs. When you look at Kirkes and the way Frimpong plays, I thought they were going to do something similar. They need a midfield general. That's what they need. They need a defensive midfielder of top quality. That they've never really had that player. Gravenberch did it last season. This season, but I think last year was built a lot on what Klopp left. Now I think he's kind of stripped it back, and I don't know where they go from here, Liverpool. I'm not sure they can jump right now. It's in that flux. Well, we've got Champions League. It would have been easier if they finished 6th to go, right, thank you, go, bye, move. But I don't think they can do it now.